Everybody, this is Pastor Dan from Desert Rain Church in Downey, and this is our Wednesday win for this week. And our Wednesday wins are testimonies from some of the people in our congregation. And tonight we have Nancy Sanchez, and she's mostly worships in our Spanish-speaking congregation, but she is doing her testimony tonight. So sit back and watch this testimony.
Hi, my name is Nancy Sanchez, and I'm a member here at Desert Rain Church. I've been here maybe about 8 years, I want to say, and this is my testimony, and my only desire is to be able to touch someone out there and to know that there is hope in God, that no matter what you've been through, God is the only one that can help you out, and God is the only one that will always be there no matter what. So my testimony begins when I was 7 years old. I was in my country in El Salvador. I was living with my grandmother, and I was raised by her. No mother and no father in my life. And she had a very special way of remembering me, that everything that I did was to be paid back in exchange of her taking care of me. At a very early young age, she would send me to sell fruit and vegetables and basically bring money to her so that I can provide. I don't ever remember seeing my mother or my father until one day I remember this man who came to visit her, and she said that he was my father. From a very early age, I noticed that he's had a drinking problem and he was an alcoholic. So there was many days when he would come and he would pass out in the house smelling like alcohol. He would disappear for months, for weeks, for years, and I would not know anything of him. He was never really in my life. One day, my grandmother took me downtown in my country, and as we're walking down the sidewalk, we see this lady walking with two kids holding her hand, and she stopped and looked and said, "Do you see that lady? That lady coming down the street, she's your mother." And I was shocked because I've never heard of my mother before prior to that day. And she said, "You know why you're not with her? She doesn't want anything to do with you." As we approached this lady, she crossed to the other sidewalk so she wouldn't encounter us. My grandmother said to me, "I told you that lady did not care about you. That's why you're with me. That's why she left you." I did not comprehend and I did not understand a lot of things. My only question was, why doesn't she want me? Or why doesn't my father care? So life kept on going. My only job was to go to school and bring money home for my grandmother. One day I was selling and two men came and robbed my money. I was very devastated. I was scared. I was nervous because I didn't know how my grandmother would react. And I already had a feeling because she had made it very clear that every day I came home, I had to bring money to the house. So when I got home and I tried explaining to her what had happened, she immediately reached for a belt and she whipped me. She beat me everywhere in my body. When I was around 8, 9, my grandmother said to me, "We are gonna move to United States. We're gonna go to California." Apparently I had family. She said, "You have to go with me." So she said, "We're going to go see your mother once again because she's willing to sign papers, legal documents, so you can go with me and leave the country." I remember getting in the bus again, and for long hours, we finally arrived at this rural area, and this lady came out from like an old shack. Multiple kids and children living there. She came out, she walked with us, she rode on the bus for many hours again. Never spoke a word to me, never said anything whatsoever. We finally arrived to the city. We stopped. She purchased herself an ice cream, and I can still remember how she ate the ice cream, enjoying it. And I stared at her, wondering if that was really my mother. After that, we got into this office. I guess it was a notary public from my understanding now. And I remember her signing documents, which I actually own to this day, of her saying that she authorized her daughter, me, to leave the country and for a better life. Once again, we got on the bus for many hours, and she got off. And that was the last time I ever saw her again. When I was 9 years old, I was brought here with my grandmother, to be more specific, in Los Angeles. I came to know 4 aunts and 4 uncles that lived in the house. When I came to this country, I thought it was a better life. And I thought it was something new. Things would be nice, things would be beautiful. But it wasn't. It was actually my worst nightmare. Immediately within the first week of me living in the house, I was explained how things were going to be done. I was told that I was there to help and serve everyone in the house. I was told that my job was to cook, to clean, to wash, and to take care of anything that anyone needed. I started school. I started the 4th grade. I was ordered to not have any friends. I was threatened that if I had any friends or I spoke to anyone, I would be sent back to my country. No one wanted me there. My mother didn't want me. My father didn't care. I would end up alone on the street, and that really terrified me. So I obeyed. I obeyed everything. I never spoke to anyone while I was in school. I had no friends because I was terrified to be sent back. It seemed like everyone in the family did not care, not one bit. I can still remember one day throwing the trash, and there was a student that went to my school and lived in the same building. And we encountered each other on my way. He said, "Aren't you the new student that goes to my school?" And all I said was yes. Unfortunately, my grandmother saw me speaking to him from the window. When I went back to the apartment, she dragged me by the hair and she beat me because I was talking to this boy. She assumed that I was flirting with him, that I would say anything that was going on. So it was very clear to me that I was not to be a normal kid. I was not able to have friends. It was clear to me I was not able to speak to nobody. So for years, I went to school, and that's how I acted. I was shy, I was quiet. Every day when I was in school, it was the happiest place for me, because every day there was a reason for me to get beat. Every day there was a reason for the verbal abuse. Every day there was a reason. I was not allowed to ask any questions. One day I said, "Do you know where my mother is?" And I was slapped across the face. And I was told she was a prostitute, that nobody cared for her, and that I would grow up to be just like her. Every day, her abuse became worse and worse. When I was in school, I used to love to play volleyball. And somehow I would lose track of time after school, because that's where I would forget all the pain. That's where I would forget all the words, all the hurtful words, everything that was done. And one day I came home late after school because I was too focused playing. When I came home, we lived on the 2nd floor, and all my clothes was outside. She said that I was going to be a prostitute, that I was nothing, and she started beating me with the belt everywhere you can think of. I remember covering my face with my arms so she wouldn't hit my face. I ended up on the floor, rolled on the floor. She said it wasn't enough, so she went and grabbed a metal hanger, a wire hanger, and she beat me with it, only because I was late from school. So after that, she decided that I was a burden to her, and she dragged me downtown in Los Angeles. And she bought a lot of clothes, wholesale clothes. And she said that was my new job. So every day after school, I had to walk the streets and sell clothes to bring money again. Everyone in the house knew what happens. They saw the abuse, they saw everything, and nobody said or did anything. My aunts on my dad's side of the family would say comments. She deserves it. You did well punishing her. One day, I was washing dishes, and I accidentally broke a plate, landed on the floor, and broke. She grabbed another plate, and she slammed it against my back and broke it. She said that would teach me to do things right. I was not allowed to sit and eat with the family either. I had to wait for everyone to be asleep before I was able to eat. Certain things I was not allowed to touch. One of my aunts had a daughter who was 2 years younger than me. I was told very clear she was the princess of the house. And I had to do whatever she told me. So I cooked for her. I cleaned after her. I took her to her karate classes. I took her places that I was told. So I was basically the slave. I was basically the one who had to do everything in the house for 8 people. I didn't have a normal childhood. I never had a toy in my life. I remember my cousin. She had the most beautiful Barbies as a kid. One day I was left home alone and I was cleaning. And as I was cleaning, I came across her Barbies and I began to play with them. I must have accidentally placed one in the wrong place. When they arrived back home, she accused me of playing with her toys and grabbing her stuff. So my grandmother beat me once again. She used to wrap my hair around her hands since I had long hair. And she dragged me through the floor. And she said, your only job is to clean. Your only job is to make sure everyone is taken care of. So I was a mock. I cussed and laughed in my face. I used to ask myself a question and say, how can they see this and how can no one care? I remember as I started getting older, I started focusing more on my appearance. I had long, beautiful hair and bangs. And one day, my grandmother saw me in the mirror, fixing my hair. She said, wow, so you think you're beautiful now? You think you're important? I said, I'm not doing anything wrong. The next day, her and one of my aunts took me in the car to the hair salon. They told the hairstylist, chop my hair as short as possible. And I sat there in the chair and I heard how my grandmother and my aunt and the hairstylist said very mean, hurtful things. And I say, how? How can 3 people sit there chopping a child's hair and speaking so mean of her? After that, I hated my hair. I was made fun of at school. By the time I graduated elementary school, I remember all the students talking about the big day and how their parents were going to be there and how they had their outfits ready. For the most part, I tried to do good at school. I was always an example. My teacher selected me to help other foreign students with their English and to help them out. So I was selected as Student of the Week multiple times. And for the culmination on graduation day, I was chosen to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I was very happy and excited about that. When the big day came, I was the only student who not only did not have a nice outfit to wear, but I was the only student who didn't have anyone there. I remember seeing all the students with their families. Everyone had balloons and gifts. I sat on the bench after everyone walked away, and I had tears because I knew there was no one that cared. Whenever the time came, if I needed shoes, if I needed clothes, she said I had to earn it. So she took me to a thrift shop store. She would select the items that I was allowed to wear. And she had me steal them underneath my clothes. I can still remember when my aunts would make dinner. I can still smell the smell of the food. And she would tell my cousin, she's been very bad today. She won't get to eat. She doesn't deserve to sit at the table with us. As a child, there's things that you don't understand. I think I must have been 12 years old when I started my menstrual cycle. No one talked to me. No one explained to me. No one ever said that would happen to me, being a female. The first time I stained my clothes, I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. So I took the clothes that was stained and I hid it away so they wouldn't see it. And the next day I went to school. Using my common sense, I managed to take care of it. But when I came the next day, she had laid out a piece of garment that had blood stain on the carpet. She reached for the vacuum cord and she began to beat me everywhere in my body, my legs, my arms, my back, only because I stained my garment. After that, she dragged me into the bathroom. She turned on the hot water and she forced me to go in the shower. She said that would cleanse me and that would help me teach a lesson. I still remember the burning hot water over the scars. They were unbearable. I cried so much that day. I didn't know if I had any more tears. As I was in the shower, she said the most hurtful words, that your body is dirty. I was confused. I didn't even know what certain things meant. I was only a kid. The very next day, I was supposed to go to school. So she had a set of clothes ready for me. She had a long sleeve and a turtleneck, pants, oversized, I would say. The purpose of the clothes was to cover my bruises and not let anyone see the marks. She threatened me once again that if I spoke to any teacher or anyone, that I would be sent back to my country. So I kept quiet. No one ever knew the pain I went through. No one ever knew anything. There was a student in my PE class, and she accidentally saw one of my marks while I was there getting change.
she reached out to me. And I told her, terrified, I can't speak of anything to no one. She promised me she would not say anything. And that she was there and that she wanted to be friends. And I told her, you don't understand, I can't have any friends. So she promised that she would not say anything. It turns out she only lived like 2 blocks away from me. So we became friends. But she knew to keep it a secret. My only friend. And she knew that we couldn't see each other or talk outside of the school. I slowly vented to her and told her the abuse, but there was nothing she could do. She could not help me. One of the happiest days of my life I can think. One day, my grandmother said, we're bringing your father to this country. He's coming over. And I was full of joy. I thought to myself, things are going to change. They're not going to do this to me anymore, not with him being here. And the happiest day came when he came to this country. I still remember. He lived in a house where I was living. But it was like he never existed. He did his own thing. He went to work. He came, never acknowledged me. So I knew he was my dad, but he was not really there. The physical abuse stopped only while he was there. When he was out, or he wasn't in the house, things were the same. I was scared to tell him because I was threatened. And they always told me, he doesn't want you. That's why he abandoned you. But within days and months of him being here, I started realizing and noticing how slowly and slowly the alcohol took over him. In 3 months of him being here, he came to the house one day and he said, I have great news. He said, I'm moving out with some coworkers. And my heart jumped out of joy because I said he's going to take me with him. And I would no longer have to suffer here. I won't have to see them. But that wasn't his plan. I was the least person he was thinking of. So in 3 months, he left. And he left me there once again. He moved in with some coworkers who were also heavy drinkers like him. And I asked myself, how could he? How can he leave me here? In my dreams, we were going to start a new life. In my dreams, we were going to be happy away from them. Years later, he lost his job because of alcoholism. He became homeless. His friends abandoned him. So he lived out of a van nearby the house. My grandmother would cook for him, and she would send me with food to go look for him on the streets so I can feed him. So I would walk the streets and the alleys looking for him. Some days I found him and gave him the food and left. Some days he was passed out in an old mattress on the street. I remember begging him and telling him, please, Dad, please, please, change, please stop drinking, please. Take me with you. We can start all over. But none of my pleas ever mattered. When I saw him homeless on the streets, I realized there was no hope for him, no hope for me either. But I saw how the alcohol destroyed his life. One day, packed food in a container and she said, I know where your dad is. He's on this street. Take food to him. You better find him and make sure he eats. So I went. And on my way there, I accidentally tripped and fell. And the food landed everywhere. And I was so sad. I'm so mad at myself because how could I drop the only food that my father was probably going to have? I hated myself for not taking the food to him. But I knew what was going to happen if I told her. I bruised my knees and I bruised my elbows. I scraped my hands. So I remember wiping the blood with my own saliva. And I went back home and told my grandmother that I gave him the food. But it hurt me so deep inside to know that he never got the food. To this day, I would not understand the ignorance. They're my family. I have their blood. How can they treat me this way? How could they do this to a child? I was a student who every parents' conference never had anyone there. The only one time that my grandmother went to a high school conference. My middle name is Carolina. Everyone in my house called me Carolina. For whatever reason, who knows? My first name is Nancy. When she attended the conference that day, the teacher referred to me as Nancy, as it is my first name. When we got back home, she told everyone, my aunts, my uncles, that I had decided to change my name. Apparently I did not like Carolina. Now I was called Nancy at school. I was confused. That's my name. She said she needs to be reminded that her name is Carolina. So she beat me up one more time. What wrong had I done? What was wrong? After all, it was my name. Everyone just stared. Everyone pointed. Everyone laughed. I tried explaining to her that schools use your first name because that's your name, not your middle name. And I was slapped across my face. And she said, you will be called what we want to call you. One day my dad came. He was very drunk. He came to visit and no one was home. I was so happy to see him, even though he wasn't even aware I was there. So I was always happy to fix his bed and make him comfortable. My only dream was for him to stop drinking. So he always carried a bottle of vodka in his back pocket. And when he would fall asleep, I would take it and dump half of it and refill it with water. So he would stop drinking. When he woke up, he found out. He took a sip and he started yelling. And I was the only one in the house. So he punched me in my mouth. I forgave him because I knew he was drunk then. One of my aunts decided to get married one day. So her husband moved in the house with us. I had to attend to whatever his needs. Wash, clean, cook. So after that, they had their first child. So in the middle of the night, I had to get up and take care of the baby, feed him, burp him, everything that comes with the child. Once again, when I was in school, I was the most happiest kid in life. No one could hurt me there. No one can say anything. I felt safe when I was in school. When school ended, I would cry to not go back home because I knew what was waiting for me. I knew what was expected. So I entered the volleyball team at school. And I wasn't allowed to stay after school. But one day I did. We played a game and I was the happiest child in life. It made me happy. When I got home late after school, my grandmother said that apparently I didn't learn. Apparently someone needed to teach me that I have to be home at a certain time. So she had a special way of punishing. Once again, she reached for the vacuum cord. According to her, it was long enough and she could reach everywhere with it. So she beat me again. She tossed me on the wall. She dragged me by the hair. And I pleaded to her to please not hurt me. I pleaded to her. But it wasn't enough for her. So she said, take off your clothes. I was terrified. I was scared. I didn't know why. And as I kept saying, no, please, don't hurt me, she kept beating me with the cord. The marks in my back were unbearable. The pain, the burning. And she said she was not gonna stop. She ordered me to take off my clothes. I was shaking. I was shaking out of fear. So I started to take off my shirt. That wasn't enough for her. So I took off my pants. I was left with my undergarments, and she whipped me with the vacuum cord. She ordered me to take off my undergarments. And I pleaded on my knees. And I told her, please, don't do this to me, please. But she kept beating me. So I did. I still remember I had one arm, one hand across my chest, and one in my lower bottom, covering myself. And she ran to the kitchen. And she came back with a handful of dry beans. She set them on the floor, and she ordered me to get on my knees on top of the beans. According to her, it would hurt my knees, and I would learn. So I was on my knees, on top of dry beans, while she kept beating me, and I kept pleading over and over. She left me there for almost an hour. I remember the pain in my back, and the bruises, and the marks. My knees could not stand anymore, so I hunched. And every time I hunched, she beat me again, so I could stand straight. And I remember that while I was there, It was in the evening, right when everyone would return home from work. And I was terrified because I was there on my knees with no clothes. One of my uncles returned home from work, and he saw me in the living room and walked like nothing happened. And everyone just arrived. Everyone kept arriving. They saw me, my own family. I was full of shame. There was no way out for me. There was no hope. I was lost. I was at the lowest anybody could be. My knees could not stand my knees from the pain of the beads penetrating my knees. 8 people in the house, aunts and uncles, saw me on my knees with no clothes, with marks in my back, my body. And not one person bothered. Not one person did anything. Not one person tried. After that day, I realized everyone hated me and everyone was my enemy. I realized nobody cared.
So I was dragged in the bathroom so I can shower once again with hot water. So I could be cleansed in her own eyes. I was full of dirt, according to her. She said I was just like my mother. She said everyone hated her. I never did understood why. I never got the answer. I remember being on my knees in the bathroom with marks and bruises in my body, stripped out of my clothes, crying. After that incident, she decided that was the best punishment that I could receive. So that was the option every time. Not once, not twice, but multiple times. One particular day, when she was punishing me and I was on my knees with no clothes, my aunt's husband came in the house. And for some reason, he looked at me very weird. He looked at me very different. And I was ashamed. I covered my body. But that would lead to other things.
Couldn't let anyone know what was going on. Because I was terrified.
One day my aunt, his wife, said they were moving. They were getting their own place. And inside, I was so happy because I would be far from him and he would no longer continue to abuse me. So they did. They left. They got their own house. Then my aunt got sick. So she was ordered bed rest. And once again, he managed to get his way. He told my grandmother, we need her. We need her to help in the house to take care of my wife. So I was sent there. I was sent there a couple of days a week. And the abuse continued. While my aunt was asleep in the next room, when I was in the bathroom with no clothes, and I was beat and I had marks everywhere you can think of.
I got on my knees.
Prior to that, I didn't know if there was a God. I didn't know if God was real. I didn't know if he existed.
I had overheard people just speak of a God. I think I'd only heard the word God maybe 3 times. I don't know. But I got on my knees. I was broken. I had no more hope in me. And I called on to God. And I said, God, I don't know if you are real, or if you even exist, or if there's even a God. I said, but if you are real, take me away, take this pain from me. Don't let these people continue to hurt me. I felt this warmness came to me. And I felt his presence. And I felt him hug me, and I felt like this weight just came off of me. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that everything was beautiful after that day, or that things changed or got better. But I felt his presence, and I know he was preparing me, and I know he was preparing my path so I could find him. She would find reasons, she would find anything to humiliate me, to put me down. So one day I was walking from school, and there was a group of students ahead of me, and our apartment window lead to the front of the street, and she assumed that I was walking with them, or that I was talking to them. So she grabbed my underwears, opened the window, and threw them out the window. They landed by their shoes, by their feet. And she yelled. She can't even clean up after herself. See how useless she is to embarrass me in front of the boys. So when I went upstairs, once again, she assumed that I was talking or walking with this group of students who I didn't even know. So she grabbed the broomstick and she started beating me with it. She beat me so she couldn't do it no more. I remember having her shoe on my chest, and as she pressed down, she flipped the broomstick and pressed it against my throat. And she said she was going to kill me. I was shaking, terrified. But I can tell you, God was watching out for me. I believe in miracles. And I believe to this day, it was God who did a miracle to save me. We had a landline phone, and the phone rang. I say to this day, thank you, Lord, because the phone rang, and she paused, looked at me, and ignored the phone call. And she said, I'm going to kill you once again. She was pressing my throat with the broomstick. But the phone rang a second time. So the second time she proceeded to take the call. And I was in shock. I laid there on the floor not knowing what to do. And I was so terrified. She went, took the call. And I guess they hang up, I don't know. But I could hear her footsteps coming back towards me. And I knew that was gonna be the end. But the phone rang again. So she went back to answer, and I could hear her saying, hello, hello. And I'm laying there on the floor. And while I'm laying on the floor, I ignored it the first time because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. Where was I gonna go? I didn't have anybody. And I clearly heard a voice again saying, "Run, hurry, get up and run."
What an amazing story so far. I mean, going from El Salvador and to this country, and kind of the hopefulness that she had when she came here, but she received even more abuse, and it got worse when she got here. But stay tuned. Next week, there is so much more to this story and this testimony. So God bless.